So when I wanted to figure out what I was doing for my Sped talk, I went to some documentation for Firebase. And what Firebase is a like a back-end service. It's a Google service. And with the free option, we're able to do about a gig of storage, and there's limited amounts of reads or writes that you're able to do in a given day. You could do other things if you pay for it, so it's very scalable in the future. And you can see just on the screen there's other things about it. There's a database for Firestore. I'm personally going to be using Firestore. When you're first going to start making a Firebase project, you'll be greeted with a screen that looks like this. And we can view what things we're able to make. We can set up backend for Android, iPhone, web development, C++, video games, or whatever admin is. I'm not sure what that would be. So I'm working with a iPhone app, so let's show you what I had to do to get Firebase working for my backend. The directions here are fairly straightforward. They help you know how to create the project on the website, as well as when we scroll down here a little bit, it'll show you some code that we have to type in order to get the Firebase up and running. So one thing to know, we have to use a thing called coco pods, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But first we're going to go over to my other account where I have my app partially created with my backend, and I'll be able to explain a little bit about how the database is set up. So it's not like a traditional SQL database. It is set up in collections, documents, and data. So think of the collections and documents as classes. They hold other things. And the data is set up in a dictionary format where there's a key value and a actual value that is linked with it. So as you can see, what I'm doing now is I'm just adding a subdocument for kicks and giggles. But this can go about 100 deep. So I could have a specific document that holds other documents, and so on. And you can organize your data pretty much however you would like. You can also delete any of the documents or collections that you have. If you do it on the website like I am right now, you have to type in the name of the collection. That way you don't delete things that you aren't meaning to on accident. So now I'm scrolling through the documentation for Firestore, and it just has a lot to show us how to do things with transactions or writing or reading data. I haven't been able to go through a lot of this as of yet, but what I have found has been pretty helpful. Let me see if I can show you some of the things that I've been looking at and been able to use in my app so far. So here we have Swift code, which is the programming language that you have to use for iPhone development. And we're having a reference to a collection called cities and a specific document, SF. And here you can see where we're able to set data in a dictionary format with all of these cities. They have a lot of documentation for different techniques that we're able to use. One of them that I find really interesting is being able to access data while the phone is offline. It records information on its internal storage, and it's able to query it as if it was Firestore's database. And then when they're back online, they'll be able to synchronize up and get that information out to the proper location. Another thing that I want to talk about is coco pods. Because when I had to create my Firebase application, I had to use it. So I Googled it, and I figured out what it was. And surprisingly enough, the install is one line of code. You just open up your command prompt, type this in, and you're pretty much set. What coco pods is it's kind of like, for those of you that know what pip is for Python, it's very similar. It's just a package manager that helps you to not have to keep going out to random websites and updating your code if you're using external libraries. To summarize what we learned, we went over a little bit of the setup and the code for how to use Firebase, and we learned a little bit about coco pods.